Today's topic is the walrus, and if you're not sure what I mean, you'll find out in a second. Now, way back in my first video, I told you that this little mustache comb is not for applying the wax, it's only for getting the kinks out and maybe getting rid of some knots, and that's about it. Well, I wasn't entirely right. That's true if you're doing a handlebar mustache the way I was, or something with a solid waxy finish. But if you're going for a walrus mustache, if you're going for maybe a steampunk look, or sort of a Victorian, maybe an Edwardian look, you may want that fuller, bushier kind of look, and that's the time that this little comb comes in handy. And I'll show you exactly what I mean right now. So just as with our usual handlebar mustache, you work the wax in, just like that. And for this one, you want to make sure that you get a really even coat and really press it through the hairs, because unlike my usual handlebar, where all the hairs kind of bind together, with the walrus mustache, you're going to keep everything a little separate. Sorry, my hand was in the way. I think I meant to say you're going to want to keep everything a little separate. You want all the hairs to stand up separately, and that is where this comb comes in. You see, because once you've got the wax in there, you can comb it out. Now, the thing you have to be careful of is that once you put the wax in, it begins to set pretty quickly. And as it begins to spread thin and dry more quickly, if you work it too much with the comb, you'll get little white spots. And in fact, I think I got a couple right there, but it's not too bad. Anyway, we're going to want to keep those hairs separate. This may be overdoing it a little bit, but the hairs now are all pretty well parallel. They're also still kind of a mess, as you can see. So what I want to do from here is just gently form it into whatever shape I'm looking for, but I do want to keep those hairs separate. I don't want to get them too tight. If I were a walrus-wearing man, then my mustache would probably be trimmed to about here, and from this point on, I could simply comb that end out. My stache is pretty well used to the handlebar, and it doesn't want to stay separate. It wants to curl up because the hairs are comfortable that way. But I think you can see what I'm getting at here, which is that with just a little wax and a little combing to keep the hairs parallel. There's a little loose one, you can tuck him in. Keep the hairs parallel. If this were maybe trimmed to about there, you can see that that would actually form rather a nice walrus. Now, if you have a thicker mustache than mine, you're going to find that that something like that is going to come in much more thickly and much more fully. I'll do the other side just for comparison so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Once again, working the wax in all the way. Forgive me for looking away. I want to look in the mirror, make sure I don't miss a spot. And with the walrus, you want to work the wax in, like I said, pretty quickly, because as you spread it thin through the hairs with your fingers, it does press the water out of the wax, and it begins drying and setting pretty quickly. It won't become completely transparent for a little while, but it is going to become unmanageable in about a minute or two. So I use the comb to comb out the hairs so they're parallel. And again, like I said, if I were a walrus-wearing man and it was more of a regular thing, then I would trim the stache appropriately, which I'm not going to do, so you have to use a little bit of imagination. But just very lightly forming that stache. Now imagining that this were cut off right up at there, and you can see that this would actually form a rather nice kind of a walrus stache. Very good look for steampunk, like I said, something Edwardian or Victorian, or just something a little bit different, maybe you know, 1909 New York City slicker kind of a thing. And again, whatever you wear your mustache in, your hair after a while is going to begin to grow in that pattern. So mine is tending to want to bunch up a little bit, but you can see how the hairs are parallel. There's a little bit of whiteness here. But I think that's going to disappear in about a minute or two if I leave it the way it is, which I won't. As soon as I turn the camera off, I'm going to curl up the ends because, you know, that's my thing. But that's the walrus mustache. If you want to go for that, one more time, you work the wax through the stache, you use the comb, which maybe earlier I said not to use, but for this, you do use it. And you stroke it through, and you make sure the wax is all distributed evenly. You don't want any clumps of wax. Work fairly quickly, because if the wax starts to set, if you wait a minute or two and then start to comb it in, you're going to feel it stiffening up almost like glue, but also you're going to get little white flecks in the hairs, and that's, you know, it's not terrible, but we strive for, you know, a certain savoir-faire, don't we? So anyway, that's it. Just work it through. Trim the ends however you think is appropriate. Let's see if I can style that a little more. Keep the hairs separate. There you go. You see, because once the wax begins to set, and it does begin to set pretty quickly, you'll see that the hairs, this side is already getting a little too hard to recomb. Just bunch those under. Some of the hairs are loose, but just gently, as the wax sets, just gently work any stray hairs back in, and you'll have a great walrus mustache. Maybe without the antennas in the end, but you know how it goes. Anyway, that's the Walrus Mustache. I am Jeff Stache. You are the Eggman. If you don't know the Beatles reference, shame on you. But come back real soon. We're going to have more mustache videos. Bye.